There comes a moment in every woman's life where she has to face a painful truth. The moment she realizes she's been calling desperation love and begging for something that should have been freely given. You didn't start out this way. You were whole, radiant, sure of your worth. But somewhere along the line, you started shrinking, adjusting, auditioning, not for a role in a movie, but for a place in someone's life. And it's time we talk about it. It's time to get honest about the kind of love that leaves you empty, and why you need to stop waiting for someone to pick you when you were always meant to choose you. You kept thinking that if you just made yourself a little quieter, a little easier to deal with, a little more agreeable, maybe then he'd love you the way you needed. So you started silencing your opinions, downplaying your dreams, tiptoeing around your truth, not because you changed, but because you thought maybe that's what love required. You shrunk yourself, thinking love would grow in that empty space you created. But all that ever grew was your pain. You stopped asking for what you wanted because every time you did, he made you feel like you were asking for too much. So you settled. You compromised your needs just to keep the peace. And slowly, piece by piece, you gave away parts of yourself just to hold on to someone who didn't even notice you're fading. You convinced yourself this is what strong women do. They endure. They stay. They love harder, but you forgot that strength is not measured by how much pain you can take. It's measured by how much of yourself you refuse to lose. There was a time when your presence was full, your laugh, your voice, your energy, your spark. But then you found yourself shrinking to fit inside someone else's limitations. You let go of friendships, let go of passions, stop doing the things that used to make your soul feel alive. And why? Because you were afraid that being too much would push him away. But what kind of love asks you to become less just to make someone else feel more? You started to believe that love had to be earned. That maybe if you just kept showing up, kept giving, kept sacrificing, one day he'd realize your worth. One day he'd wake up and finally see you. But that day never came, did it? Because the truth is, if someone can only love the watered-down version of you, then they don't love you at all. They love the convenience of your silence. They love the benefit of your effort, but they don't love the fire inside you, the very thing that makes you you. And I know what you tell yourself. You say, it's not that bad. You say, he's trying. You say, it'll get better. But you're not convincing him, you're convincing yourself. You're trying to make peace with the discomfort because you're afraid of the alternative. You're afraid that if you stand tall again, if you reclaim your voice, if you stop shrinking, he might leave. But here's what you need to know. If you have to disappear to be loved, then that love is a lie. You were not created to be small. You were not created to be quiet. You were not created to be convenient. You are meant to take up space, to laugh loudly, to speak boldly, to love freely, to dream without apology. And any man who makes you feel like that's too much is simply not enough. You see, the problem was never that you were too much, is that he was never equipped to hold someone as expansive, as deep, as real as you. So instead of growing with you, he asked you to shrink. Instead of rising to meet you, he hoped you would fall down to fit him. And for a while you did. You kept making yourself smaller, hoping he'd notice the effort, but he didn't. Because you can't awaken someone who chooses to stay asleep. And you can't be fully loved by someone who only wants the parts of you they can control. But now it's time. It's time to return to yourself, to stretch again, to breathe again, to remember who you were before love taught you to disappear. It's time to stop apologizing for your emotions, your intuition, your strength. It's time to stop editing yourself to make him feel comfortable. You were not born to fit inside someone else's version of enough. You were born to be full, to take up room, to be so in love with yourself that no man ever gets to decide whether you're worthy of love or not. The love you're looking for won't ask you to shrink. It will meet you at your full size, your full truth, and rise with you. But that kind of love only finds you when you stop hiding, when you finally say, no more. When you finally believe that who you are, exactly as you are, is already enough. Because the moment you stop shrinking for someone else is the moment you finally start growing for yourself. You kept telling yourself it was loyalty, that staying was the right thing, that holding on meant you were strong. So every time he let you down, you forgave. Every time he crossed a line, you moved the boundary. Every time you cried, you wiped your tears and convinced yourself that real love takes work. But what you called loyalty was really self-abandonment. You gave up pieces of yourself, not all at once, but slowly. You stopped speaking up when something hurt. You stopped asking for more because it always turned into a fight. You stopped dreaming bigger because he never believed in your vision. You quieted your soul to keep the relationship alive, and in doing that, you let parts of yourself die. And that's not love. That's emotional survival. The hardest part is admitting it. Because you wanted it to work so badly. You wanted to prove that you were the one who stayed, who believed, who never gave up. But here's the truth. No matter how much love you give, you cannot save someone who's not willing to meet you halfway. You cannot carry the relationship on your back and call it commitment. Because loyalty that costs you yourself is not love, it's bondage. You kept staying because you saw the potential. You remembered the good moments. You believed in who he could become. But while you were falling in love with his potential, he was getting comfortable with your sacrifice. Comfortable with giving less and still receiving your all. Comfortable knowing that no matter how far he pushed, you'd always come back. But that isn't loyalty. That's emotional slavery disguised as love. You think leaving makes you weak, but it's the staying that's been slowly breaking you. You smile in public, but you cry in silence. You call it love, but deep down it feels like grief. Grieving the woman you used to be, the peace you used to have, the self-worth you used to feel. You know you're fading, but you keep hoping that maybe this time he'll see your worth. But if he hasn't by now, he's choosing not to. And I know, you were taught to endure, to stick it out, to be the ride or die. But what about riding for yourself? What about standing up for the woman you've been silencing just to keep someone else comfortable? If staying means betraying your truth, silencing your soul, and living in a version of love that keeps hurting you, then walking away isn't weakness. It's There is no prize for who suffered the most in love. There is no trophy for who stayed through the most disrespect. And there is no reward for loyalty to someone who is loyal to their own convenience, not your heart. Love should be mutual, not one-sided. It should fill you, not drain you. And any relationship that demands you to keep bleeding just to keep it alive is not a relationship, it's a slow death. You keep showing up for someone who doesn't show up for you. You water them, heal them, love them, and then wonder why you feel empty. It's because you've been pouring from a well that's never been refilled. You've been giving so much of yourself away that you forgot what it feels like to be loved in return. You're afraid that leaving means giving up. But you're not giving up. You're letting go. Letting go of the weight that was never yours to carry. Letting go of the guilt that kept you stuck. Letting go of the illusion that your love could fix someone who refuses to heal. It's not your job to convince someone to value you. It's not your job to keep sacrificing yourself for a connection that only works when you're the one doing all the work. You've tried. You've stayed. You've loved. But now it's time to love yourself more than you love the idea of what could have been. Because you deserve to be loved in a way that doesn't require you to constantly prove your worth. You deserve a love that holds you, honors you, sees you, even in your mess, even in your power. And until you find that kind of love, let your own be enough. You never needed to lose yourself to be loved. The right person will never ask you to... There's something deeply painful about loving someone who doesn't see you, about pouring your heart into someone who only reaches for you when it's convenient. You start off giving freely, hoping love will be enough, but little by little you find yourself doing things you never thought you'd do, explaining your worth, overextending your boundaries, begging for crumbs and calling it a meal. You were never supposed to be in this position. You were never meant to beg for love. You start to notice the shift, the silence after your texts, the lack of effort, the way he looks at his phone while you're speaking. And yet, you tell yourself it's okay. Maybe he's just stressed. Maybe it's a phase. Maybe if you just do a little more, be a little more available, a little more understanding, he'll finally show up for you. But days turn to weeks, and all that's really happening is you're slowly disappearing inside of your own hope. And it hurts, doesn't it? Because you remember how it used to be. You remember how he used to chase you, compliment you, hold your hand without thinking. You remember the attention, the connection, and now all you feel is distance. You keep reaching for something that's no longer reaching back. You keep calling out emotionally, and all you get is silence. But still, you stay. You wait. You love, because you're afraid that leaving means failure. But what if I told you the failure isn't in walking away, it's in choosing to stay where you're not valued? Because love, real love, does not make you question if you're worthy. It doesn't leave you starving for presence, aching for reassurance, chasing clarity that should be freely given. You shouldn't have to convince someone to love you, to choose you, to stay. If it's real, they will. And if they don't, it's not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their capacity. You are not hard to love. You are not asking for too much. You are asking the wrong person. The problem is, you've tied your self-worth to his validation. You've made his response the measurement of your desirability. So when he pulls away, you take it personally. You start trying harder. You dress up more. You become more agreeable. You start reshaping yourself, erasing parts of your identity just to become more lovable in his eyes. But no matter how many times you rewrite yourself, it's never enough. Because the truth is, the person you're performing for doesn't even deserve the original you. And I get it. You think staying is love, that sacrificing your needs is maturity, that swallowing your pain is strength. But love that asks you to suffer just to be seen isn't love. It's emotional torment dressed up as devotion. You're not being loved, you're being tolerated. There's a difference. You keep saying, maybe if I just wait a little longer. But how much longer will you wait for someone who's already shown you they're not willing to show up? How much more of yourself will you give to someone who only takes when it's easy and disappears when it matters most? You weren't created to chase. You weren't built to beg. You are not someone's backup plan, and you are not someone's convenience. You are not here to remind a man how to treat you. That's something he should know before he ever gets the privilege to stand next to you. If a man doesn't see you the first time, stop handing him more chances to prove that he never will. You were meant to be loved effortlessly, not eventually. You were meant to be chosen in rooms you're not even in. You are meant to be adored, fully, completely, and without hesitation. But before anyone else can love you like that, you have to believe you're worth it. You have to stop chasing what refuses to stay. You have to stop begging for hands that let go of you the moment things got real. There is a version of you that is free. A version that doesn't text twice, that doesn't lose sleep over someone's lack of effort, that doesn't cry over a man who can't see the gold in front of him. That version of you is waiting on the other side of letting go. But to meet her, you have to stop begging. You have to walk away from the one who never truly saw you. Because the love you were begging from him was always meant to come from you. You were never too much. You were just too real for someone who wasn't ready. And I know it hurts, letting go of the fantasy, walking away from the person you thought they could be. But one day you'll look back and thank yourself, not because it didn't hurt, but because you finally stopped begging and started becoming. You remembered your worth, even when he couldn't. And you walked away, not because you didn't love him, but because you finally loved yourself enough to stop chasing what was never truly yours.